Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com. Hello and welcome to SciTech Culture. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. And Steve, I think I can speak for both of us when we say that we both have an affinity and a strong appreciation for the original Alien film, which we're going to start there and lead into Alien Covenant as our own little review. Is it fair to say I know it was an important film for me when in my first sort of exposure to film, because it was like the quintessential horror film laced with really good science fiction elements.
Yeah, I don't think to this day I've ever seen a film that scared me more.
It was just so well done. Now, you know, we're living in a world of franchises, and I think we're going to tie back to an episode of that we did earlier in the year about the Hollywood cultural recycling machine, and I think we referred to The Force Awakens back then. And when I walked out of Alien Covenant just recently, which is now out at the moment, I was struck by how similar the feeling I had when I walked out of it, in that it was like it was hitting the beats and it had the visuals and all that, and yet I walked out completely forgetting what I'd watched. I can't even remember any of the characters now that I think of it, except for Android Man Michael Fassbender in there. And the thing that disturbed me, though, is that unlike The Force Awakens, which was directed by someone other than the creator of the franchise, this one was directed by the creator of the franchise, and you got the same result. I mean, just to put it in perspective, essentially the first 30 minutes of the film, and I hope it's no spoiler alerts here, but the first 30 minutes of the film are essentially the same as the first 30 minutes of the first Alien film, except the context of why the ship is going to the planet is different. Well, I guess you got to make something different, I guess. The next 20 minutes is really to me, the best part of the film, which was about, it was basically the first creature moment. And it was genuinely creepy, like as in hairs standing on end type thing. And I thought, oh, okay, we're kicking in and doing something interesting here. Then it goes into 25 minutes of basically retreading through Prometheus and giving an explanation as to where the alien came from in the first place, and the actual reason they give is completely trivializes the whole thing. And then the last act is essentially a compressed version of the first Alien film. Again, they're running through corridors trying to find out where the alien is, where is it jumping out from, and it's just not scary at all. It's just not scary. It was gory in a couple of places, but you didn't feel that tension. You didn't feel anything. So, yes.
Did you care about the characters?
But I don't even remember who they are. Like you just don't.
That's a bad sign, because the first one you really cared about each of the characters.
And this is a point I wanted to bring up, actually, that this is the problem with Hollywood films today, is that they don't provide a context for why you should. Now, and a large part of that is because, yes, they're recycling things, but it seems like, that because there's a lot of couples in this movie because they're all colonists trying to colonize a planet.
Oh my God! You just by saying things like that, you're spoiling the film for me again. You might as well tell me what happens.
So you
I can't guess.
So, for instance, you're just meant to accept that a certain couple has a history, but you're given no background or no context or no history to that, so that when one of them gets knocked off, you don't care. Other than, you can sense that, it's a shame or whatever, or you see one of them tearing up or something, but it doesn't have any emotional context whatsoever. So you're not only losing that emotional connection, you're also not getting the scare either, because part of where the scare is coming from is the fact that you've seen one of your beloved characters knocked off.
Do you suppose, though, that some genius at Hollywood said, well, look, the problem with the first Alien film was the body count wasn't high enough,
Yeah.
If we put some couples in, we can up the body count. We can double the number of gory alien death scenes.
But actually, to that point, the film ends on a downer because the downer is that obviously they get to the end and there are some people left standing and they manage to knock off the aliens a bit like the first film. It's just that they put a coda in that basically allows for a sequel, and it completely negates any goodwill or good feeling you would have had to all the characters in the first place because of what ends up happening, because of what the suggestion is that ends up happening to them. So I was just stunned. I just walked out and I was like, I'll watch a film like that and I think, well, it's like it gets enough of the job done for the regular film goer to think that they got their fix, but it's just not a good film, because you can't say it's totally bad. It did have good visuals in it. It did go a long way to explaining everything that was strange and ill-defined in Prometheus, which was actually a welcome thing.
Well, which, to be fair, Prometheus never even linked up properly with what was meant to happen afterwards.
Yeah. But this film actually takes you there. It actually, like, if it doesn't explain it fully, it infers everything that you could then determine what ended up happening. So in that respect, that's a good thing. But yeah, I was just like, really, and this is the problem. I think, Hollywood keeps going this way, and it seems like there's no sign that it's ever going to stop going forward now. That what they're doing is they're just punching out these films that are retreads of old material that you're familiar with, that get the job done. You feel like you've gone in for 2 hours, you've gotten your entertainment, you walk out and you don't have to really remember it. And that's a stark contrast, I think, to Hollywood of old, which generated films that I think would last in the public consciousness for a long time, have something to say, would actually move people. Now it's just a completely disposable commodity.
Yes, look, the only film I've seen this year was Passengers. And, by contrast, it's kind of exactly the same formula as you're talking about. Was it a bad film? No, it wasn't. Was it a good film? No way. No. And, you start with this really clever sort of philosophical / ethical situation, and you end with this ridiculous, not even that thrilling action film. And it just, there's no point, as you say, yeah, everything was there. There was bit of romance, there was lots of action, some great special effects, but at the end of the day, what was the point? Yeah. And very, very disappointing to hear that about Alien, and very disappointing to hear that Ridley Scott is making films like that. Do you think that the fact that you have got Ridley Scott there making films like Prometheus and Covenant, does this mean it's impossible to make a decent film in Hollywood?
Yeah, well, I would figure if it's coming from the actual originator, then what's the hope now, kind of thing. I just don't see a positive future for Hollywood films unless there is some. I mean, I guess the final point on this is that if you were to say maybe compare it to the 60s, where they were looking for something to really rejuvenate themselves, the Hollywood, to find how to connect to that market. The major difference between now and then is that back then they were losing money, and if they didn't pull something out quick, they were going to basically cease to exist. They would have gone bankrupt. And that ended up leading into an era that was actually amazing, really. It was, Spielberg, Lucas, Scorsese, Coppola, the whole lot. They generated all these amazing films. But the problem is that they're making these mediocre films today that are just rehashes and rehashes and rehashes, but they're making gazillions of dollars out of it. So they're not really in a bad position because they're making huge money out of it. So what incentive is there for them to change?
It's a really good question.
Because after all, yeah. Well, on that fine note, go see Alien Covenant, everyone, just to see what we're talking about. I did want to just, as a final point, this is the disconnect that I'm finding. I had a look at Rotten Tomatoes. It's rated at 71%, which I think is ultra generous. And the summary is the film delivers another satisfying round of close quarters deep space terror, even if it doesn't take the saga in any new directions. Now, that's a very charitable description of what we've just been talking about. And there's a review here, which I'll just say briefly, which they gave it a thumbs up, where they said, the film serves up the usual combination of brilliant design, dazzling visual effects, and B-grade story that we've come to expect. That said, there's enough movement, action, and enjoyable silliness to make it worth sitting through. And I think that pretty much sums up what we were talking about, that it just gets the job done, and then you forget about it.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
Very sad. Very sad, considering I think the first two, and you could even squeeze the first three Aliens in there, were all pretty well done.
Yeah.
Certainly the first two were very different films, but a lot of tension. So very sad to see it go that way.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we might wrap it up there. So don't forget, check out our website, scitechculture.com. You can subscribe and check out all of our content there. And hope you enjoy it all. So that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.